Okay, great. So welcome everybody. Let's make our way into a shape where we can do a little bit of meditation. So you can certainly do that seated, but I'll offer that you take sort of a restorative pose to give you a little bit of space. And the one that I'm going to offer is laying back onto a bolster if you have one. If you have like a couch cushion or something, that works too. Depending on what's going on with your back, you might want to elevate a little bit. For example, by putting an extra pillow or block or something underneath. I'm just going to have my bolster kind of flat on the ground here. Lay back, and if it's possible, take the soles of your feet together and your knees open wide so you've got a little bit of openness in your pelvis. I'd like to do a bit of meditation kind of into the pelvis area. So this should be comfortable. Okay, if it's not comfortable, it won't have the effect that I'm hoping it will have. I want you to feel safe. So if you're more comfortable with your legs straight, or if you'd rather be seated, I know some of you have baby around, so maybe you're seated and eyes open, and that's okay. But if you can, lay back, and just part of what I'm working with here is just trying to open this area a little bit so that as I lay back over the bolster, there's just a bit more space in my belly. And again, play with the props that you have. You can do this with lots of different kinds of props. You could have a couple of couch cushions here, just whatever you need. Sometimes I do this one with a blanket wrapped over the ankles and under the thighs. And if you have other restorative props that you like to use, like an eye pillow, or maybe there's a weight that you'd like to put on your belly, like a hot water bottle or a sandbag or something, feel free to do that. And I'll just invite you to put your hands kind of on your hips, pelvis, belly. If that's not comfortable, of course, anywhere else is fine. And then you can close your eyes if it's safe and comfortable to do that, and take a few deep breaths. I know that for some of us, if baby's around, you've got kind of half an eye on the baby, and that's totally fine. That's sometimes what we need to do. But especially if you do have a bit of space to yourself, just see how much you can let go of everything else but this moment. Imagine that you were in a protected circle, like a circle of stones. And that only healing, loving energy could be in this circle with you, and that might include your little one or little ones. And any energy that's unhelpful is outside of the circle. It's filtered out. Take a moment to notice and acknowledge the earth beneath you. And I'm acknowledging that I'm on Plains, Cree, and Blackfoot land in Treaty 6 territory. Just noticing your relationship with this land. The parts of you that are of the land, wherever you might be from, wherever you might have been born, just noticing the sort of connectedness and universality of your body, the body of your child or your children, the people in your community, the earth, the trees, the air. And begin to direct your attention to your womb. If you would like, you could put your hands a little more directly on this area. So in the bowl of your pelvis, you don't have to know it specifically exactly where it is. This sort of energetic place that was a home for someone, that nourished someone, that transformed your body and your life. And just notice what you feel in this part of your body. What is your relationship like with this part of your body? What are your feelings toward your womb? Have you thought about it or felt into this place since the birth? And I know that that relationship might be complicated or uncomfortable. So see if you can tap into an energy of love. An energy of compassion. This is an energy that all of us practicing this meditation right now are sharing. So it doesn't have to be just your energy. It can be that loving energy that is connected to your community. And you might have some feelings like anger or sadness or confusion or loss. Those are all welcome here. They can be bathed in love. Whatever happened or didn't happen in your birth experience, just see if you can find that experience of love. And I want to acknowledge too that if this is feeling a little bit intense, if you're feeling like this isn't where you want to go today, just drop your awareness back down into the earth beneath you. You can kind of tune me out and stay there if it's not feeling safe for you to go to this place today. If it's feeling okay to stay here, just offer your womb some breath. And whatever love you have available, which again includes the love that comes from other places, including from me, from us, certainly from your little one or little ones. One of the foundational abilities of the womb is to transform every cycle. It releases, it grows, there's death and life here. It's a powerful place and it can feel kind of intense to tap into. So again, I want to honor that. Stay with the love that can hold all of the emotions that live here. And breathe, keep breathing. And notice if you're going into stories like, I should have, this should have, I should, whatever, like those kinds of words. Just see if you can gently let those stories float away. They don't matter right now, just breathing. Staying with a love that can contain whatever's true, whatever you feel. Then see, if you can, the power of this place. Not only the power of a womb that gave birth, however that birth happened, but the power of a womb that cycles, that changes, that releases, that doesn't hold on. Change is the thing the womb knows. There's wisdom in that. And I'm going to offer one last piece here. Okay, if you're still with me in this meditation, remember you can drop down into the earth if it's too much to be here. If you can stay with your womb for a moment, notice what happens if you ask your womb, what do you need? Just be open to whatever arises or doesn't arise. There's no right or wrong answer here, including silence. Just giving it a little space. What do you need? Beautiful. Okay. When you're ready, you can release your hands, and you might want to give them a little shake or a little flick, almost as if you're kind of shaking off water, like any energy that is trying to release right now. You can imagine shaking that out into the earth beneath you, just letting that go. And then take 3 really deep breaths. So as deep as you can into the belly, exhaling out the mouth. If you want, you can make some sound, just again, clearing. And then we'll start to move, and we'll continue to just sort of flow this energy around the body so that it can go wherever it needs to go. So you might want to take your arms up over your head and your legs out long if you're laying on your back. You can bend your knees and take them about match distance apart. This is seated or laying down, and take the windshield wipers. So just washing the knees from side to side. You can turn your head away from your knees as you do that if you like, just bringing the twist a little bit up into the neck. And then you can roll off your prop if you're laying on something, just taking a moment to curl up on your side. And we're going to make our way to laying on our backs, and we're going to do some work on the pelvic floor and the core. So this first part you can do seated if you're not too comfortable laying on your back for a while, or you can elevate yourself a little bit laying on the back if you like. And I'll let you know when we do need to be laying on the ground, okay? So we're going to start with just some pelvic tilts and check in with the pelvic floor. This can be done in almost any position, but when we're laying on the back, there's just nothing pressing down on the pelvic floor, so it can be a little bit easier to access. So you can place your hands back down on your pelvis, knees bent, feet on the floor. And then as you inhale, tilt your pelvis forward and do your best to kind of relax your pelvic floor, allow it to open up. And then as you exhale, gather your pelvic floor in and up, and then curl your spine to the ground, so flattening the back. Inhale, releasing, tilting the pelvis forward, opening the pelvic floor. And exhale, gather the pelvic floor in and up and flatten the belly to the mat. So we're connecting the pelvic floor and the transverse abdominis right now. And as we've talked about many times before in this class, with pelvic floor, it's connected to your nervous system, right? So sometimes whether it contracts and releases isn't in our control, right? If we're stressed, it will tend to be a little overly tight, which makes it hard for it to strengthen. So really making sure that we focus on the release as well as the contraction. Okay. And if you're kind of new to doing the Kegels or the pelvic floor contractions, keep working like this. If you're a little more comfortable with them, we can add on a bit. So we can engage pelvic floor, flatten the back to the ground, and then see if you can keep your pelvic floor engaged and just come to neutral with your back and keep breathing. Your breath is not going to be really low down in your belly. That's okay. So it might be a bit of a shallower breath, but just try to hold about 10 seconds there. And then next time you inhale, relax, 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 relax. And take a nice deep breath. Soft, 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 soft. Let's try that again. Inhaling, you can tilt forward, soft pelvic floor. Exhale, gather pelvic floor in and up, flatten the back. And then this is a challenge part for those of you that are comfortable with it. Keep the contraction in the pelvic floor. Come back to neutral. Maybe you're even relaxing your belly a little bit. So a true pelvic floor contraction is just the contraction by itself. Holding for about 10 seconds. And relax. Take a nice deep breath. Okay, one more really deep focus on that pelvic floor. Softening, opening, gathering in and up, flattening the back. Keep the pelvic floor contraction and see if you can soften the back. Keep breathing. Lift, 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 lift. And relax. Take a nice deep breath. If you want to move a little bit, feel free. Sometimes when we're working with those pelvic floor contractions, other things tighten too, like the jaw or the hips. So just take a moment to soften that. If you'd like, you can bring your knees into your chest. And we're going to do a little bit of core work now that is laying on the back. So if you can come and find your way onto the back for this next part, please do. So we are going to use our pelvic floors here as well. But I'd also like to really focus on that transverse abdominis. So we'll start relatively gentle and we'll add on depending on what you feel comfortable with, okay? So start with your middle fingers on your hip points, thumbs on your ribs. Inhale, keep your back neutral, gather in the pelvic floor first, and then imagine the 4 points are trying to get closer to each other. So you might feel your belly hugging in even a little bit more, okay? Stay here, or you can lift your shoulder blades up off the mat. So that's just gonna add your upper abdominals, okay? That's optional. As you inhale, lift a foot. Then as you exhale, put it down. Inhale, lift the other foot. Exhale, put it back down. Okay, so this is a great place to get started. Okay, if even this is feeling a little bit uncomfortable, or if you're noticing that your belly is popping forward, you can actually do this just by sliding 1 foot at a time. I think we did that last week. We've done it before in this class. It's very simple. You're just sliding 1 leg at a time. And that's perfect. Okay, if you're okay with just the lifting, let's work there for a bit. And really thinking about gathering those 4 points in together, especially if you still have your hands there. And this is really helpful if you do have some diastasis, which depending on how long ago it was, almost everybody does, at least for a while. And we just need to really encourage those muscles to come back together and really in towards the body. So really focusing on that. Not so much how high the legs are going or how fast you're going or anything like that, just really focusing there. If this is feeling pretty easy, you can lift up both feet and tap 1 foot down at a time. Okay, and just notice where you're at in terms of your comfort level here. And again, what I'm most concerned with is that your belly is going in and up. Okay, I don't care so much about what shape you're doing. That's what I want you to focus on, is gathering in and up. Okay, so that's really will help to gather everything back together if you do have that bit of diastasis there, or maybe you have a lot. Nice, you guys, and let's take a break. So when you're ready, just come and relax. You can have soles of the feet together, knees open wide, and just take a moment to really consciously relax your pelvic floor. Okay, then when you're ready, come back to that same starting position. Inhale, and then exhale, gather your pelvic floor in and up and gather the 4 points together. So again, belly is drawing in and up, but the back is neutral. You can take any of those variations that we just did, or lift up both of your feet, squeeze them together. Imagine you had a loonie between your knees that you were trying not to drop. You can have your chest lifted, you don't have to. It's going to be a little harder for the diastasis if your upper body is lifted. Okay, so if you're really working with that, keep your head down, be a little bit easier. Okay, on the inhale, the knees are going to move just past the hips, and on the exhale, they're going to come in. Okay, so again, belly drawing in and up. If you squeeze the legs together, it quite helps to get the inner thighs and transverse abdominis going. Okay, and if this is feeling quite easy and you know that you're safe in terms of diastasis and so on, you can curl your tailbone off the ground. They should say if you're menstruating right now, take it a bit easier. We don't love to do a ton of core work on our periods. And that is okay. It's okay to act a little bit differently when we're on our periods. Okay, so just notice if you're needing to keep your belly a bit softer today, just trust that instinct. Maybe you're resting right now, or you're just doing what feels comfortable for you. You won't hurt yourself, okay, but just energetically, it's nice to take it a little easier on your period in terms of core. Okay, and let's just try for 3 more. 2. 1 more. And rest. Take soles of the feet together, knees open wide, or feet wide, knees together, whatever works for you. And again, consciously relaxing, releasing the belly. Good. And actually, I'm going to give you an option here to massage your belly a little bit. Okay. So you don't have to do this if it doesn't feel comfortable, but you can just take your hands, just nice and soft, down to your pubic bone, and just feel a little bit right there. And then roll your hands up along the right side. So like right side of the groin, into the inside of the right hip bone. So you're kind of getting into psoas there, guts, and up along the right side. Okay, this is amazing if you have constipation as well. So we're just kind of stroking up along the right side, as much pressure as feels comfortable for you. And then we go across underneath the ribs, noticing how that feels. Maybe taking a couple like that. So this is this can help to move things along. Yeah. Constipation and pelvic floor issues can come together sometimes. And then we're going to gently press down along the left side to the inner edge of the left hip, and down along the left groin, and back to the pubic bone. Okay, and then maybe if it's feeling comfortable, gently massage up from the pubic bone to your belly button. So notice how this feels. This is kind of your womb zone, right? This might be your diastasis zone, so being gentle. You may not want to press too hard in there. You're not going to hurt anything, but just so you can kind of feel for yourself. And if you do have a scar there, you know, it might be really nice to just give it some love with a little bit of a massage, just noticing again how that feels. And if it doesn't feel okay for you to do that, you certainly don't have to. Okay, this is just a little, it's like one of the practices of just getting a little more intimate with what's going on in your body, right? Okay, let's let that go. You can release the hands, hug the knees into the chest, maybe rock a little bit from side to side. And keep in mind too that if you're around baby and it's not working to do all these exercises, you can always do them later. Okay, so let's find our way to cat and cow. So you can do this on hands and knees, or in a seat if you prefer is fine. And let's just check in this way. So changing the plane, inhaling into a little bit of a back bend, and exhaling to round. So whatever shape that you're in is fine here. And if your wrists are a little bit sensitive, which is really common postpartum, you could be on your fists, or you could just be practicing really pressing the finger pads into the mat so that the wrist can strengthen. Feel free to add circles or side to side movement, just really kind of exploring what you're feeling. And this is one of my favorite shapes to do with baby because he kind of likes to be right here, you know, getting tickled by my hair or just watching me sort of come closer and move farther away. That's sort of an interesting game when they're learning about separation and distance. It's like peekaboo. Mm-hmm. Good. And then let's try a child's pose. So toes together, knees as wide as you like them. And just taking a moment to really draw in towards yourself. So child's pose is lovely. Energetically, it can feel like a really safe place to rest. And especially if that meditation that we did earlier was, you know, interesting for you, it might be nice to just take a few breaths on child's pose. Breathe into your back. It's just sort of closing the vulnerable front side. Good. Nice, you guys. Okay, from here, let's reach the arms forward and then walk them over to one side. I'm going to the left. Reach out with that right hand and sink the the right hip back so that you get a little bit of a stretch along your side. And then walk your hands back through center and over to the other side. And just leaning back a little bit with that left hip as you reach out with the left hand, stretching the left side. Sometimes lower back pain is something twisting along the spine somewhere. Because the lower back is a little bit more flexible, sometimes that's where the issues will show up, even when the origin of the issue is actually the ribs, which is what's happening for me right now. Okay, and then we'll come back to center, and I'd love for you to find your way onto your belly. So another little tip, if you're working with a baby, a big thing for me was actually just letting go of the yoga mat. So sometimes I do yoga with him just on a carpet. There's just lots of space because I can just reorient around baby, reorient where he's going. So if you do have baby there, maybe you're walking back a little bit to get onto your belly, and you can do tummy time together. Okay, I'm going to stay on my mat so you can see me. I'm not disappearing. But let's come down. So from here, let's do a little bit of work with the upper back and shoulders, the entire back line. Let's start simple. Take your arms in a nice little cactus shape, point the toes, lift the kneecaps up, engage the glutes, and draw the tailbone a little bit down. And then as you inhale, lift the chest and the elbows a little bit. So just pressing into the hands as much as is comfortable, and then exhale and come down. Inhale, lifting. You can walk your hands a little closer to your body if you want to come up higher, or you can just keep it nice and low. This is one of my favorite ones for kind of, it's like a little rinse and release for the lower back. And then next time you come up, you might want to stay for a couple of breaths, just see how that feels. Try to draw the shoulders down the back. And then release, come on down, take a little rest, relax the bum and the heels. Okay, and then from here, let's do, this is a bit of a funny one, but it might help to find some of those muscles that we really need to help us with the postpartum upper back. So it's that same practice, but we're going to do something a little bit different here. So you're going to engage the legs like we talked about. Kneecaps lift, pubic bone presses down, core is gently engaged. Lift your chest, and this time lift your hands as well. Doesn't have to be far. And then close your fists as if you were holding onto a bar and pull it towards you. Okay, gently release that, and then grab the bar again, the imaginary bar, and pull. Okay, so feeling for the shoulder blades drawing together and down your back. And these are the muscles that we can weaken a little bit, especially when the pecs are pulling us forward from all that nursing, bottle feeding, picking up, staring down at, whatever it is that we're doing, chasing around. And just taking a couple more of those if you can. Let's try one more. And maybe hold and relax. Relax the heels, relax the bum. Take a nice deep breath. Okay, one more here. And this is more of a chest opener. So if you like using a strap, you have one handy, you can, palms face down. I'm just gonna hook my thumbs. You could also interlace your fingers. Okay, so there's different ways of doing this. We just wanna have something to pull on. Pointing the toes, just like we've been doing, lifting up the knees, pubic bone presses down, and then lift the chest, and it does not have to be high. I'm more interested in the shoulder opening here than the back bend. So pulling the hands down towards the legs and pulling them apart to see if you can open up that chest. And just looking gently down. Let's take one more breath and then relax. And take a nice deep breath. And then when you're ready, we can come back either to child's pose or cat and cow, just to release the back after all of that work. And just take a moment to feel that. Good. Okay. And then from here, let's try a downward dog. If that's not serving you today, feel free to do cat and cow or just stay in your child's pose. Okay. Otherwise, we'll come up into downward dog. Actually, you know what? Before we do downward dog, let's do something else first. Come back down to your knees if you've gone up. And then bring your elbows to the ground. And if you have a block like this one, put it in between your hands. Okay. If you don't have a block, just have the palms together. Okay. And then just walk your hands forward or your legs back as you pull your heart back towards your thighs. If you do have the block there, just press your hands into it really gently. Your head can come down. This is a really nice upper back release. Knees could be a bit wider than the hips if they need to be. My bum is like just behind my knees. So the weight is in the legs. Almost creating like a little hammock for the upper back. Beautiful. Okay, let's gently release that. You can come back through seated like I'm doing, or child's pose works as well. And maybe just give your shoulders a moment to just notice how that feels. And now we can try downward dog from there. So that's a little bit of the functional shape of downward dog. And again, optional, of course. Lifting up your bum, pressing all of the knuckles down into the mat. Maybe you're bending one knee at a time. Maybe swaying the hip side to side. One that I really like is the feet about as wide as the mat. And then swaying the hips over to one side. And then the other way. Okay, and then when you're ready, come into standing forward bend. So walk your feet forward towards your hands. You can rest your elbows on your bent knees or hang down, whatever feels right for you. See if you can relax your neck and jaw. And you might be still playing with baby a little bit here. Okay, and let's do our lifting practice. So widen your feet apart a little bit. You might turn the toes slightly out. Drop your bum, look forward. Grab baby if you've got baby, or just pretend. Bring that towards your chest and then press into the heels to stand up. So we're really using the glutes and the core. Okay, let's inhale. Bend the knees generously, weight goes back. Core is engaged, and you can place baby or imaginary baby back down. Lift up the bum, and let's just do that a couple more times just to get it in the body. And I know that realistically, it's not always like this. Often the baby's moving, so you're kind of leaning to one side as you do it, but it's nice to kind of condition the glutes and the core to be doing the lifting work. Okay, so we're just coming up and down a few times. And I want you to notice your pelvic floor. So in an ideal world, your pelvic floor just naturally contracts. You don't have to think about it. But you might notice that you can squeeze your pelvic floor as you're coming up and as you're coming down. So just protecting that area a little bit more. And you might notice that it's doing that without you having to think about it. So it kind of depends on what's happening there. Just doing one more. Good. All right, so we're gonna come to standing. So release your baby if you can. I know you can't always, but you can do that same movement to come back. Yeah? Okay. So little tip about the crib. I think some of this is kind of getting used to it, but we know that there's a putting in the crib, you can't do that after a certain point because the crib rails are high and you have to just be reaching forward. So as you're doing that, just the little pieces that can help, bend your knees as much as is possible, neutral back as much as is possible, and really do engage your core when you're kind of in that position, okay, when you need to do that, because you have to be a little bit rounded. It's not great for your back, but just to the best as you can. Don't go in with locked legs. Make sure that your core is engaged when you're doing that. It will help a little bit, okay? So I would love to get back into a little bit of the breathing work that we did last time. And first, I just want to return to the hypopressive work that we've been doing, that belly work that we've been doing, get that nice open diaphragm. So you might remember this from the last time that we were here, okay? So this is going to be full Uddiyana Bandha. And then we're going to take it into some movement and just work with ribs releasing. So actually, I'll take my sweater off. This might help. Okay. So the action here is we inhale, we exhale all the air out, we hold the air out, and then we hollow the belly. The action when we're holding the breath out is as if we're inhaling, okay? So if we try to inhale but we can't, the diaphragm is lifting, and that's kind of the action that we're looking for, okay? It'll pull all of our organs up with it. It'll massage the diaphragm and release the pelvic floor. So this can be a really powerful practice to add in when we're doing some pelvic floor rehabilitation, among other things. My practice is every morning in the shower. I do this maybe 3 times. Doesn't have to be a ton, okay? So here's what it looks like. Feel free to join me if you've seen this before or watch first. My feet are a bit wider than shoulders distance. Toes are a little bit turned out. I inhale, I exhale, hold the air out. I relax and then inhale. Okay, any questions? Good, okay. Let's try it a couple more times. So you're actually pushing with your hands. Your shoulders can come up to your ears, that's okay. You're kind of hunching your back a little bit. Part of this is opening the back. That's part of what I like about it anyway. Inhale, come down, hold the breath out, press. And inhale. So you want to come up before you get uncomfortable. Okay, just one more time if you're willing. And take a moment to notice how that feels. Beautiful. Okay, so we're going to take it into some movement, and we'll just kind of see where we want that to go. Nice little cleansing movement practice. So here I want you to think about that movement, but we're not holding the breath out. We're just using the inhale to really expand the ribs in that way, so that So that as we inhale, there is a little bit of that feeling of hollowing, but we're not holding the breath and we're not suctioning, but it's just that same, it's like the parachuting of the what is this, diaphragm? Okay. When we really get into our practice with this, this is actually Ujjayi breath. It's a little different way of teaching it, but if you know Ujjayi breath, this is kind of related to that. So let's just practice together. Okay, next time you inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, dive over your legs. So a little bend in the knees. Halfway lift, press into the shins, hollow the belly as you inhale. Exhale and melt over your legs. Inhale, bend the knees, look forward, rise up and puff up. So you feel your back kind of widening as you rise. And then hands come together at the heart. Inhale, lift, widen. And dive. Lift, press the hands into the shins. So it's almost that same feeling that we were just doing, but don't hold your breath. Exhale, fold. And the knees, rise up. Hands to heart. And this work can be wonderful during menstruation, as long as it feels okay. Again, rising up, starting to find your own rhythm of breath so you don't have to go at my same pace. Exhaling. And rise. Hands to heart. Nice. Okay, let's add on. Inhale, rise. And dive. Lengthen. And this time, step your right foot back. Bring the knee down. You're welcome to pat it if you need to. Okay, reach your arms up. Stay here. Okay, hug the inner thighs together. Press the tailbone down and press forward a little bit. And then see if you can access that feeling of breathing into the back ribs here. It's going to feel a little bit different, but still works. Notice what your shoulders are doing. They might lift when you're doing this breath, so see if you can consciously soften them, especially on the exhale. Good. Inhale. And then as you exhale, come to the top of your mat. Lengthen. And step your left foot back. You can come down. You can pat it if you need to. Rise up. And again, square the hips, tailbone draws down, and just see if you can focus on breathing into the diaphragm there. And maybe especially on the exhales, just deep in the shoulders. Okay, it helps me to bend the elbows and turn them a little forward. So you can turn the hands to the back. And that might help just to soften your shoulders down your back a bit more. Good. Inhale and come to the top of your mat. Lengthen and fold. Bend your knees, rise all the way up. Hands to the heart as you exhale. Nice. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, dive down. Lengthen. Step your right foot back again. Lower the knee down. If you happen to have two blocks, you might want to use them here. Okay, you don't necessarily need them. Put them to either side of your front foot or to the inside. Actually, let's all do to the inside, just to give us a little bit more space. So fingertips or blocks or whatever you've got here. As you inhale, pull your hips and your heart forward. Allow your shoulders to roll down your back. Exhale, straighten your front leg, flex the foot and fold any amount. Okay, inhale, hips and heart come forward. So we're giving the hips a little bit of space here. And then exhaling to come back. So if you can still work with that nice deep hollowing breath, please keep trying. It's not going to feel as obvious here, and that's okay. Nice. Okay, and the next time you come forward, let's stay there. Okay, I'm just going to lower my blocks a little bit. You can also widen your foot even more out to the side and turn the toes out on a little bit of an angle. I've untucked my back toes. Okay, I want to draw my tailbone down, press into that top of the foot and pull my heart forward. So this is going to be a little bit of psoas. And if you can find that hollowing breath here, you might actually feel a bit more of a release into the hip flexor. Good. And then as you come down a little bit lower, your attention will be a little bit more onto this front hip. You could explore lifting up the toes and opening the knee. And you're coming in and out of that a couple of times, or maybe you're just coming right into it. When I say open the knee, I actually mean open the hip. Your knee doesn't change. Your ankle should be wrinkle free. Okay, is another way of saying that. So the inner arch of the foot comes up off the floor. And you may or may not have lowered down. That's just sort of up to you. Good. And then gently bring your hands back up. Ease off on your hips and bring your foot into the midline. So in line with your hip, or you could even try having your heel in line with your knee, like you're balancing on a tightrope. So you're a little bit narrower of a stance here. And then carefully straighten your front leg. Make sure that all feels safe. We're going to get into IT band a little bit here. Stick your bum out a bit. Lengthen your heart forward. Okay, and then you can stay or reach your left arm open to the sky. Press your heel into the mat a little bit. Just different ways of getting into the hip. Nice, and then gently release. Bend your knee, just walk it back into the midline. And you can step forward into forward fold, or you can step back into a downward dog, and we'll try a little variation of vinyasa. Okay, so if your wrists are willing, okay. So this is what I was working on initially when I was sort of trying to get my strength back. So you can do this on or off the knees. 3 times we draw the belly in and come forward into plank, and then press back. And again, this can be on or off the knees, curling forward, finding that little bit of core, and making sure that the wrists and shoulders are okay with this, wherever you're working. Three, good. And then I'll recommend coming down to the knees for this. Widen your hands a little wider, like maybe right off your mat. So this is a push-up, okay? The elbows are gonna bend out to the sides. Look forward, belly draws in. We inhale, exhale, bend the elbows. It doesn't have to be far. Push the floor away. Just 3 times. Try to keep the shoulders on the back. Think of middle of the back. Nice. And then all the way to the floor. Take your favorite back bend. There's so many. Simple cobra, sphinx, upward dog, whatever you like. And then let's come back to downward dog or hands and knees. Let's make our way to the top of the mat. And then you can do your functional rising up or roll up, which just feels nice. If you're not, don't do this if you're holding a baby. That would not be functional. But if you're not holding a baby, you can do it. Okay, good. Let's find the breath again. Inhale and exhale. And then inhale, rise up and dive. Lengthen, hollowing the belly. And step back with your left foot. Bring the knee down. If you have blocks, you can use them. You don't necessarily need them. Walk your foot out just a little bit wider so that you can have your hands on the inside. It's okay to turn your toes out a little bit, as long as your knee feels good. Inhale, hips are pressing forward. Exhale, we're straightening the leg and folding down. Any amount. So we're massaging into the hips. we can have this paradoxical thing where this does improve after we weaned, but if we are breastfeeding, and when we're on our periods, okay, and when we're pregnant, during these phases of our lives, we have a little more looseness in the body. And sometimes that actually paradoxically leads to more tension because other muscles are sort of trying to compensate for the looseness. So it can be really nice to just work into the hips a little bit here. Yeah. Good. Okay. And then next time you come forward, let's stay there. Again, you can turn the toes out a little bit. Make sure your knee is roughly over your ankle. I'm untucking my back toes here. You can see how that feels for your knee. Press the top of the foot into the mat as if you were going to lift up the kneecap. Think of lengthening the tailbone. Find that hollowing breath again and try to pull your heart forward as you breathe into your back body. Naturally, your shoulders will lift a little bit when you're doing this breath. It takes a little practice to just kind of notice that and soften them where you can. Good. And then as we lower down, we're going to get into the hip a little bit more, the front hip rather. You might be flexing the foot and opening the knee out to the side. Maybe you're coming in and out a couple times or allowing it to open. So especially because of that extra looseness in the body, we want to make sure that we have integrity in the core and the glutes, sort of in the foot being flexed. We don't want to just sort of collapse into these shapes, but we do need the opening. Beautiful. Okay, and then we'll come back up to the hands as you're ready. Walk the foot back into the midline or just past the midline. So right kind of on that tightrope shape. So the leg is on a slight angle inward, and then carefully straighten. And see how that feels. Draw the tailbone back, heart forward. This might be plenty, okay, especially if you're quite tight in this region, outer leg kind of region. If you want a little bit of a challenge, you can experiment with lifting up your right hand and twisting open. So this is a bit of balance if you do have the legs a bit narrower, and you might feel that IT bend a little bit more there. Really nice. And then gently release that. And let's all step back to the back of the mat. And I'm just going to offer that little vinyasa sequence again. So feel free to take or leave it, take the parts that you like, leave the parts that you don't, just kind of work where you are. Again, this can absolutely be on the knees. Okay, we're drawing belly in, coming forward, pressing hips back. 3 times, drawing in, coming forward, that plank shape, and back. And one more. Okay, and then come forward and then knees down, widen your hands apart. Last week, just got the question about if this hurts your lower back, you can try with your bum a little more lifted. Okay, try to keep the core engaged though. Shoulders on the back, elbows going out to the right and the left. Look quite far forward. Exhale. 2 and 1 to the earth. Okay. And then take your favorite back bend. It might even be this one that we did earlier, where you're hugging the shoulders onto the back, especially after the push-up. That might feel really good. Beautiful. And then we'll come back to one last downward dog, or you're in child's pose. And I'm just going to offer in downward dog, if you're taking it, that you try that hollowing breath. It's interesting in an inversion, right? So keep breathing. We're not doing the breath holding, but just see if as you inhale, you can really draw the belly back towards the spine, and you might feel the pressure coming off your pelvic floor. This is so useful for prolapse. And then release. Come down to your knees and then down to your bum. Let's give a little bit of love to our wrists. Okay, spread the fingers nice and wide, and then curl the knuckles down, and then open the wrists, and then curl, and then one more time. And then hold that little curl, stretching out the backs of the wrists. And then give that a little circle. Okay, so from here, there's so much that I want to do. Always, I'm going to try to combine a couple of things that I want to do. So you may or may not want to sit on a little piece of support here. Extend your legs forward, and then take your right ankle onto your left thigh. Sorry, I forgot to sit on it. And then just bend your left leg until you get a little bit of a stretch. So I'm just off the prop if I'm staying in this variation here. Okay, so fingertips behind me, shoulders are drawing down the back, and I can rock a little bit from side to side. Okay, and then see how it feels to draw the shoulders down, heart lifted, and bring an ear to a shoulder. So we're just adding a little neck stretch to a hip opener. And then try the neck on the other side. So the ear is just coming down towards the shoulder, and the shoulders are gently drawing down the back together. Nice, and then through center, gently release the legs. You can give them a little shake. And then come to the second side, so left ankle to right thigh, drawing in, fingertips behind you. And then again, you can add an ear coming down to a shoulder. Maybe this time, try looking down as you do that. It's just gonna be a little bit of a different part of the neck. If you can tap your head and rub your tummy at the same time, maybe you're also rocking your legs. It's okay if your brain has got enough to do. And then come through center and just bring your opposite ear to your opposite shoulder, maybe turning the chin a little down. Nice, and then coming back through center, gently release your legs. You can give them a little wobble. You can give your shoulders a little roll. And let's come to a rest. So it might be interesting for you to return to the same shape that we started in, which is laying back over the bolster. Soles of the feet together, knees open wide or not. You might be more comfortable with something under your bum with the bolster a little bit elevated. Or maybe you don't want to take that. You want to take classic Shavasana with the bolster underneath the thighs if you have a bolster. Or you could be laying on your side or seated, especially if you're with the baby, just wherever you need to be comfortable and kind of absorb the juice, the nectar of our practice together today. And a part of our intention today was actually about releasing, letting go, kind of cleansing some things from the body. And so you may or may not feel that that has happened for you today, but just noticing what it feels like to be resting here. If it feels right, you could check in with your mind's eye on that womb area, just noticing what is your relationship like with that area right now. And we're not trying to judge it or fix it or change anything right now. We're just trying to connect with what's actually happening for us there, which might be disconnection. That's okay. That's a good thing to notice. And you can begin to deepen your breath. You can wiggle your fingers and toes. Maybe rock your head from side to side. Reach your arms up over your head. Stretch out long. And draw in your knees and roll to one side. And then gently press yourself up to a seat. You could have your hands together at your heart or over top of your heart, or maybe today would be a nice day to have the palms over top of the womb, the low belly. And then take a moment to bow your mind to your hands, your heart, your breath, your belly, your womb, everything you've been through, whatever it took for you to get here today. To honor and acknowledge the long and complex lineage of teachers that is with us in our yoga. To honor and acknowledge the land, wherever that may be in the world. Thank you for sharing your practice.